I'm in Marvel, I'm Kamen Rider. Chapter 11. I'm not afraid of you, Locust Man. You are nothing more than that in my eyes. Andrew stared at Lin Wusheng with cold eyes. Although the name Locust Man is widely circulated on the streets, his wife and children often mention it with admiration. But Andrew still felt that the other party was similar to those clowns who wore tights and ran around at night. Isn't the power I gained with my life no match for the toys made by these capitalists? Since you are protecting Tony Stark, I won't be polite. Andrew flicked his fish tail, and the surrounding air suddenly flowed like water waves, and his body instantly arrived in front of Lin Wusheng. At the same time, a three-pronged spear also appeared in his hand, stabbing Lin Wusheng fiercely. The prompt from Zia's satellite entered Lin Wusheng's mind. Following Zia's intelligent prompts, Lin Wusheng easily avoided Andrew's series of attacks. Izzy. Lin Wusheng called Izzy's name again. Izzy also nodded immediately and quickly threw a briefcase to Lin Wusheng. Lin Wusheng took the briefcase in his hand without turning his head. After some changes, the briefcase turned into a long sword full of technology. It is the exclusive weapon of Kamen Rider 01, the Briefcase King Sword. Seeing the two of them cooperating so seamlessly, Sky on the other side felt a little disgusted and felt like an outsider. Ding! Ding! The King's Sword of the Briefcase and the Trident of Enoch the Thorny Fish were constantly clashing together. A ball of brilliant sparks burst out at the intersection of the two weapons. The two figures, one yellow and one gray, look like they are in an action movie, and the fight is fierce. People were also excited to see it. Kamen Rider 01's strength and speed greatly exceed that of Orpheus Enoch, so there is no need to say much about the result. Bang! Yellow light flashed, and Lin Wusheng's body bypassed the Trident of Ifa Enoch, and then lifted the Briefcase King's Sword in his hand from the opponent's abdomen to his shoulder. Immediately afterwards, Lin Wusheng put one foot on the ground and turned his body. The King's Sword of the Briefcase struck hard at the body of Ifa Enoch again. Gray sand flew everywhere, and sparks and smoke exploded on the body of the stickleback or phoenix. The moment Andrew's brain shut down, he fell heavily to the ground, burning smoke rising from his body. It's just a little bit away. I'm just a little bit away from killing Tony Stark. Andrew turned into a human, regained consciousness, and beat the ground unwillingly. Andrew. And Tony also looked at Andrew in shock. I didn't expect that the other party would be an engineer whom I had promoted. He was so angry that he came to Lin Wusheng's side and accused Andrew. Why, Andrew? Why? I obviously treat you very well. I have been promoting you. I have always admired you. And what about you? And Andrew just looked at Tony Stark mockingly, his eyes full of resentment. Stop talking. You hypocritical villain. It's my biggest regret not to kill you. Andrew gritted his teeth, looked ferocious, and looked at the rest of the people. You all deserve to die. You are all beasts. You are all cannibals without blinking an eye. Ah. Lin Wusheng stepped on Andrew's chest. Stop talking, you should talk in prison. No, looking at the monster you are, I don't know if you should be sent to the FBI, CSI, or some other organization. I will never let you go even if I die. Andrew kept struggling at Lin Wusheng's feet. But a group of examagias gathered around him and tied up Andrew with special ropes. Okay. Stop struggling. This is the nano-metal rope newly developed by Jerome Intelligence. You can't break free. Lin Wusheng shook his head and cancelled the transformation. Forest. Sky immediately threw herself into Lin Wusheng's arms. The guests also gathered around, their eyes full of surprise. Mr. Jerome, I didn't expect you to be the Locust Man. Drive Lin, you are hiding too deep. Although I doubted you, I didn't expect that you are really the Locust Man. Lin, I love you and I'm proud of you. Guy, why are you hiding so deep? Really? The guests surrounded Lin Wusheng, all talking, and there was a burst of crazy praise. Lin Wusheng, on the other hand, couldn't hold back his lips as he looked at the rising impact factor. Okay. I hope everyone will keep this matter a secret for me. Lin Wusheng implored everyone. I will explain the matter of Kamen Rider 01 armor to you later. But now is not the time to expose it. I hope everyone can understand. Of course. How can we talk nonsense everywhere? Everyone immediately made their pledges, and young people such as Harry Osborn and Gwen Stacy couldn't help but start to express their admiration to Lin Wusheng. When everyone was about to make a joke, they discovered that Lin Wusheng was also a young man in his early 20s. This is genius, this is the existence that will dominate the future. Dr. Carlton Drake marveled. Even Reed can't compare to the other party. Victor Von Doom couldn't help but compare his old rival with Lin Wusheng. Be like Jerome in giving birth to a son. Norman Osborn looked at his giggling son Harry. There would be no harm if there was no comparison. This guy is not going to outshine me anymore. Tony said sourly, but couldn't help but smile on his face. Looks like I have to work hard. How about getting a set of armor too? Just when everyone was chatting heatedly, something happened again. The bodies of the 4 security-type exomagia that were originally suppressing Andrew suddenly twitched and turned into gray gravel and dissipated in the air. What? In the horrified eyes of everyone, a figure descended from the sky and took Andrew in his hand. This figure could be seen to be of the same race as Andrew, with strange patterns and ferocious bone spurs on his body. However, the color of the body tends to be white and silver, and through the head, you can see that there is something like a bouquet of roses on the part of his brain, which looks very elegant and noble. Rose Orpheus Enoch is here. Who are you? Lin Wusheng immediately stood in front of everyone and transformed into Kamen Rider 01 again, looking ready. Rose Aoife Enoch did not answer, but looked at Lin Wusheng with strange eyes. After watching for dozens of seconds, he finally spoke. I am Aoife Enoch, a higher being. I am the form of human evolution. Rose Aoife Enoch's tone was full of surprise. Mr. Locust Man, your intelligence is admirable. If possible, I would also like to invite you to join this great evolution. Aoife Enoch. What is that? Listening to Rose Aoife Enoch's words, everyone showed doubtful expressions. This is the first time they have heard of this new term. But looking at Rose Aoife Enoch's appearance, it is true that he belongs to the same species as Andrew who just attacked them. Is there really such a creature named Orphenic? Among the crowd, Norman Osborn and Carlton Drake are both biological research experts, and their companies are also among the world's top 500 biotechnology companies. All of a sudden, they all became interested in Aoife Enoch. Sorry. I refuse. Faced with the invitation from Rose Aoife Enoch, Lin Wusheng directly rejected the other party and said with a serious face. And please put down this guy under you. Otherwise I won't be polite. What a pity. You could have become the mainstay of the Enoch family. I see hope in you. Rose Aoife Enoch sighed, as if talking to herself, but did not pay attention to Lin Wusheng's words. Lin Wusheng's face also darkened, and he immediately inserted the High Leap Locust program sublimation key into the king's sword in the briefcase. Progrissa key confirmed, Progrise key confirmed. Ready to utilize Grasshopper's ability. A series of prompts sounded, and Lin Wusheng immediately pressed the button on the briefcase Wang Jian. Rising. Kaban Strash. Gao Yu's briefcase attack. I saw a large amount of electronic yellow light wrapped around the briefcase king's sword. Lin Wusheng held it and struck hard at Rose Aoife Enoch. The power of this sword was astonishing, and everyone was dazzled by it. But Rose Aoife Enoch didn't seem to take it seriously, and just stretched out a hand calmly. Wow! It was as if a strong wind was blowing. Rose Ophir Enoch's head suddenly shot out a large number of rose petals. The rose petals kept hitting Lin Wusheng's figure, causing a violent explosion. Lin Wusheng's offensive was thus neutralized. Okay. There's no point in continuing to pester. Seeing Lin Wusheng stop, Enoch did not pursue the victory. But with a smile on his face, he scanned the people in front of him. You are all humans who have a great chance of evolving into Enoch. I hope you can understand. Aoife Enoch is the future of mankind. Quote. Before anyone could reply, the roses in the sky enveloped the bodies of Enoch and Andrew, and took them away from the scene. Lin Wusheng stood up from the ground with a gloomy look on his face. Aoife Enoch, what kind of creature is it? And everyone was murmuring, full of interest in Aoife Enoch. Judging from the power displayed by the 2 Orpheus Enoch, it is indeed extraordinary. If this kind of monster survives in the human world, it will undoubtedly be a huge safety hazard. Forest. Lin Wusheng removed his armor, and Sky hugged him nervously, checking his injuries. I'm fine. Lin Wusheng looked worried as he looked at the direction in which the 2 Aoife Enoch were leaving. But my heart was already blooming with joy, and I began to count the harvest in detail. Mr. Jerome, we have to go. The guests immediately started talking to Lin Wusheng. After learning about the existence of Enoch, everyone was also frightened. As a group of people at the pinnacle of power in the United States, they must carry out relevant investigations and prevention. Don't worry. We won't reveal your identity as Locust Man. Before they left, they made promises. Phew. You performed well this time. The grand birthday party ended. Lin Wusheng brought Sky, Izzy and Agent Hill to his office. He couldn't help but praise Hill's performance. The other party did a good job and immediately evacuated the crowd according to his order. So except for the few unlucky ones who were killed at the beginning, the top dignitaries still had nothing to do, they were just a little frightened. This is what I should do. When Hill was praised, he couldn't help but feel a hint of pride in his heart. I admit that you are qualified to be my assistant. Maria Hill, you can become a full-time employee tomorrow. Your salary will increase by 10% compared to what was previously negotiated. Lin Wusheng was not stingy about Agent Hill's treatment, which was only a small amount of money. Thank you, boss. Agent Hill also pretended to be surprised and had tears in his eyes, as if he was moved by the recognition. Lin Wusheng didn't care about her acting skills, but immediately hugged Sky. His face was full of apology. Sorry. Sky, I didn't expect. But before he finished speaking, his soft lips had already touched her. The two immediately kissed passionately. Agent Hill immediately turned around, but Izzy stared at it with great interest. It's not your fault. It's that monster's fault. Lin. After their lips parted, Sky's eyes were filled with emotion, and tears flowed down. I know you have done a lot. I know you love me. I am already very happy today. You held such a grand banquet for me. I never thought that I would be regarded as the protagonist by this group of usually aloof guys. I never thought I would become a billionaire one day. I didn't even expect characters like Tony Stark, Norman Osborn, and the Clintons to be able to talk to me. And these are all given to me by you. Forrest. Quote. No need to thank you, because I love you. Me too. The relationship between the two seemed to be heating up rapidly. But Lin Wusheng could keenly sense the cold nature in his heart. In this world, no one can understand his loneliness. Shield. New York hub base. In an office. Now I am 100% sure that Street. Jerome Lin is the Locust Man. Maria Hill looked at Nick Fury and Coulson in front of her, and then turned on the holographic projection function of the watch computer produced by Jerome Intelligence. A video suddenly started playing, showing the entire process of Lin Wusheng's transformation into Kamen Rider 01. After Agent Hill took some people downstairs, she went back up through the previous stairs and happened to encounter Lin Wusheng's transformation. In desperation, Hill did not show up and secretly recorded Lin Wusheng's transformation process with his watch computer. Oh my god. What kind of technology is this? Nick Fury watched Lin Wusheng's transformation process frame by frame, his single eye filled with shock. Why can this armor come out of his belt? Why? I don't know either. This has to be judged by the professionals in the bureau. Agent Hill shook his head and said. Jerome Lin himself called it Kamen Rider 01 armor, not Locust Man. Kamen Rider 01, does this mean Kamen Rider is an armor series? Nick Fury noticed the details. Kamen Rider armor, is it a series? Nick Fury couldn't help but ask Agent Hill. I'm afraid so. I saw some related drawings on Jerome Saint's desk, but there are no actual samples. Agent Hill said. But compared to Jerome Lin's Kamen Rider armor, the monster that appeared today is more important. That being who calls himself Orpheus Enoch. Nick Fury suddenly frowned. That's right. Hill continued to play the projection in the watch computer. The battle between Kamen Rider 01 and Thorny Fish Enoch, and later the appearance of Rose Offenach, all caught the eyes of Nick Fury and Coulson. Oh god. This kind of monster still exists. Coulson simply exclaimed. And Nick Fury also had a solemn look in his one eye. Are you sure this isn't an alien or something? Nick Fury murmured something. He has seen aliens, but those aliens also have noses and eyes, and they have never looked so ferocious. No. This man who turned into the fish Ifa Enoch is a real human being on Earth. But Agent Hill shook his head and said. I just checked his information when I came here, and he is a Native American. Andrew Myers was born in Chicago and graduated from Dartmouth College. He has been working at Stark Industries until now. He is married and has 2 daughters and 1 son. Originally living a happy life, he was fired from Stark Industries 4 days ago. Quote. That's why he hates Tony Stark. Nick Fury and Coulson nodded immediately. But why did he suddenly become this Orpheus Enoch? This guy said that Orpheus Enoch was the evolution of human beings, but what was the reason for this evolution? Nick Fury is full of questions. Maybe we need to investigate this Andrew carefully. Coulson couldn't help but said. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly realized something. He saw that Nick Fury's one eye was already fixed on him. Then leave it to you. Coulson. Andrew was fired. Stark Industries building. Tony Stark looked at the personnel manager and frowned. Who fired you? Why don't you ask me? Tony's heart is very complicated now. He felt that he was very kind to Andrew and even made him the person in charge of a big project. Although the project ultimately failed, Tony did not punish him. Just like that, the other party actually wanted to kill him. This made Tony very angry, but he also felt that something was wrong. But when he returned to Stark Industries building to investigate, he was shocked to find that Andrew had actually been fired. It's Mr. Steney. The HR manager was already sweating profusely and didn't know why Tony was so angry. But he knew he needed to keep his job. So he said Obadiah's last name without hesitation. Uncle Obadiah. Why? Tony didn't understand. It's because his research and development project failed. When Tony was about to go find Obadiah, the real owner showed up automatically. Obadiah's burly bald body entered the office and explained to Tony. The project that Andrew was in charge of was a complete failure, and we wasted $100 million. So I fired him. But his project is originally experimental. I allowed him to lose money. Tony was a little angry. I said I wouldn't hold him accountable. But I didn't. But Obadiah said, Tony, you have to understand that this is how a company can survive. We should kick out those bad guys without mercy. No. You don't understand, Uncle Obadiah. Tony wanted to say something, but when he thought that Obadiah didn't understand technology at all, he lost the desire to speak. Did something happen? Tony. Something's not right with you. Obadiah frowned and noticed something was wrong with Tony at this time, so he asked. I heard that you were attacked by monsters at Jerome G's birthday party. There are many rumors spreading, and Jerome is the locust man. Is that true? No. Tony shook his head and had no desire to say anything else. He finally understood why Andrew hated himself so much. Really? No monsters. Obadiah frowned. No. I'm tired. Tony ignored Obadiah and walked towards the door. Don't forget you're going to the Middle East next week to test weapons. Obadiah reminded. Tony didn't answer, just walked away without looking back. This guy. Obadiah was so angry that his teeth itched, and then he remembered something and looked at the HR manager who was already trembling. Norton, hand in your resignation report yourself. Obadiah gave him a cold look and then walked towards the door. Wait a minute, Tony Stark, you can't be arrogant for more than a few days. Every inch of land is at a premium in Manhattan, New York. In a villa on the Upper West Side. Who are you? Andrew stared warily at the elegant man drinking coffee in front of him. I told you. We are no longer human. I am Ifa Enoch just like you. Rose Orpheus Enoch Murakami Kyaji placed the coffee on the coaster, looked at Andrew and said. I think you only awakened after experiencing death. How do you know? Does it mean that you can only have this power after death? Andrew's pupils shrank. That's right. Only by experiencing one death can you evolve into Ifa Enoch. Murakami Gorge nodded and explained. But not everyone has this ability. There are only a few who can evolve after death. I have witnessed the death of millions of people over the years, but only 100 can evolve into Enoch. Quote. 1 in 10,000. 1 in 10,000. Murakami stood up and spread her hands towards Andrew. So you're unique, Andrew. I turn out to be so unique. Andrew couldn't help but have a proud smile on his face, but he quickly thought of something and asked. Wait, then we are no longer human. Of course. Compared with us, human beings are backward and lowly life forms. We Ifa Enoch are the real future of mankind. Murakami Kyaji also looked proud. But what about my family? Andrew suddenly thought of his wife and 3 children. I'm sorry, but I still have to tell you. Andrew, there is already a pathetic barrier between them and you. Quote. I saw Murakami Kier striding up to Andrew and putting her hands on his shoulders. Now, Ifa Enoch is your family. Humans are just our slaves. Ifa Enoch is my family, Polly and the others are slaves. Listening to Murakami Kier's words, Andrew was confused for a while. But he quickly shook his head and said excitedly. No, that's not the case. They are my family. How can they be slaves? I am willing to die for them. Your thoughts are normal. Because you are still thinking from the position of a human being. Faced with Andrew's denial, Murakami was not excited. He raised the corners of his mouth and just smiled. When you arrive, you will fully understand. Humans and Enoch are actually two kinds of creatures. Just like humans and cows and horses. Andrew was silent for a while. Then he raised his head and said, I want to go home. I advise you not to be stupid. Your identity has been exposed in front of those powerful people, and your family may have been put under surveillance. If you go back now, you are throwing yourself into a trap. You don't think that your power is really invincible, do you? Quote. Murakami Gorge glanced at Andrew. I didn't save you just to let you die again. But my family must be panicked. Besides, my wife has no job, and my children have to go to school. We have loans on our car and house. What should I do with this? Andrew suddenly became anxious. The moment you decide to attack humans, these have nothing to do with you. Andrew. Murakami Kier said quietly. You yourself ignore human laws and ignore social hierarchy, aren't you? Listening to Murakami Kier's words, Andrew's face turned pale. He sat down on the ground feebly and finally understood one thing. He can no longer return to human society. The giant-belled viper and the king cobra were killed by the locust man. Roxxon Energy Building. The remaining members of the Viper squad gathered together, with grief, hatred, and anger in their eyes. The bodies of the giant-belled viper and the king cobra were finally found, and the venomous snakes immediately deduced who was the murderer based on their injuries. The poisonous snakes stopped their search for Locust Man and returned to the base. Does this guy have any grudge against our Viper gang? The rock python, which was extremely tall and wearing a blue uniform, had gnashing teeth and red eyes. No, he has a grudge against the entire Roxxon. A figure in a suit and leather tie walked up to several people. It was Hugh Jones, the current president of Roxxon Energy Company. What? Have you figured out the true identity of Locust Man? Looking at the arrival of Hugh Jones, several poisonous snakes frowned. Of course. The night before yesterday, Locust Man transformed in full view of everyone. Shu said leisurely. Who is it? All the poisonous snakes immediately became excited. The CEO of Jerome Intelligence, Jerome Lin. Zio raised the corners of her lips and said. At his girlfriend's dinner party the day before yesterday, he transformed into the Locust Man to deal with a monster named Orphenic. As the president of Roxxon Energy, Hugh Jones also has good relationships with many powerful people. So he also learned a lot of inside information. After all, not everyone is strict with their mouths. How did we offend Jerome? He is going to attack us. Several poisonous snakes were immediately filled with indignation. Have you forgotten that you blew up Jerome Intelligence Factory a month ago? Zio smiled and said. This will cost Jerome billions. Jerome would do such a cruel thing for a factory. Several venomous snakes were furious and looked at the horned rattlesnake. Captain, let's go kill Jerome Lin. Destroy the entire Jerome. Idiot. There are so many security-type examagia in Jerome Intelligence. Can we be our opponent? And the Locust Man can easily kill the Anaconda and the Giant Viper. It's definitely not easy. Let's hit the door like this, and just go court death. The horned rattlesnake looked at the group of younger brothers and cursed angrily. He shook his head imperceptibly. Although the group of boys in front of them have good fighting ability, their brains are really weak. Then what should we do? We can't just let it go. Several poisonous snakes suddenly became excited. Of course it's impossible to forget it. We must make Jerome Lin pay for his debt with blood. However, blind action will only make us all die. The horned rattlesnake rolled his eyes and immediately looked at Hugh Jones beside him. He said coldly. Hugh, you made the plan to attack the Jerome factory. We all followed your orders. So you are also responsible for the death of our brothers and sisters. You must take responsibility for this. Of course, no problem. Hugh Jones smiled and nodded. Jerome intelligence is constantly encroaching on our Roxxon energy market, and sooner or later we will have big friction. Killing Jerome Lin will be a good thing for the entire Roxxon energy, so I will naturally help you. Let me tell you some news. The night before yesterday was a birthday dinner specially organized by Jerome Lin for his girlfriend Sky. Jerome Lin attaches great importance to his girlfriend. If he can catch Sky, Quote. Understood. The horned rattlesnake seemed to think there was something going on. He squinted his eyes and looked at Shu for a while, but Shu looked calm and generous, as if he had a clear conscience. Then capture Sky first, and then deal with Jerome Lin. This time we want to let the world know that the Viper Squad is not to be messed with. Even if you are the world's richest man. A bone-chilling chill flashed through the horned rattlesnake's eyes. New York. Midtown High School in the morning. The weather is very good today, and the sun shines on every corner of the campus, reflecting this typical American high school so vividly. The campus is lined with green trees and neatly trimmed lawns, creating a vibrant scene. Students walked in small groups on the campus paths, and the sounds of laughter and conversation intertwined to form a youthful movement. The school uniforms here seem to be just decorations. Some students wear popular sportswear, some choose simple casual clothes, and some students wear brightly colored fancy clothes, and the teacher doesn't care. Peter, I bet you $10 that Locust Man is definitely Tony Stark. At the school gate, two figures, one fat and one thin, walked towards the classroom with their arms around each other. No. Ned. Let me tell you, Locust Man should be an insect robot developed by Osborne Enterprises. Let me tell you, I saw the relevant technological output of Osborne Enterprises. Their scientists raised locusts and it was put into a hyper-gravity centrifuge and rotated for 23 hours a day. As a result, the locust's bone strength in the hyper-gravity environment became 5 times its original value. The young man named Peter shook his head and refuted the point of view of the fat black Asian young man. You must have made a mistake. Who else but Mr. Tony Stark could have the ability to create such an advanced armor? I can't imagine it. Ned shook his head, expressing disbelief in Peter's statement, but he quickly thought of something again, glanced around, then lowered his voice and whispered in Peter's ear. But I heard the news yesterday that Mr. Jerome Lin, the intelligent Jerome, has become the Locust Man. Many people have seen it. Where did you get this news? Peter was suddenly startled, and then nodded thoughtfully. Jerome Intelligence does have this technology. Especially Mr. Jerome Lin is still my idol. He got his first doctorate at the age of 17. So I also want to go to Princeton in college. Then go to Jerome Lin Mu work smart. Wait a minute, don't you want to chase Gwen Stacy? She wants to go to Empire State University. Ned winked at Peter, because a slim and bright figure suddenly appeared in front of them. Talk later. Watching Gwen Stacy enter the classroom, Peter took a deep breath and felt his heartbeat suddenly speed up. He didn't even realize that behind him, a tall young man with a handsome appearance, a short haircut, and wearing a baseball uniform had come. Hey! Isn't this Peter Parker? The nerd who is at the top of our class. The tall young man pushed Peter hard with his big crotch. The strength of the star rugby player directly pushed Peter away. Peter fell heavily to the ground. Thompson, what are you doing? Ned suddenly looked at the tall young man angrily. It's a pity that although he is fat, he is much smaller than Thompson. What? Ned, do you want one too? Thompson did not put Ned in his eyes at all, but said provocatively. Although Ned was angry, he also knew that he was no match for Thompson. Seeing the eyes of the whole class looking over, Ned chose to step forward and help Peter up. What a coward. Thompson suddenly smiled disdainfully. What did you say? Peter stood up and looked at Thompson with raised eyebrows. Please apologize to Ned. Who gave you the guts to talk to me like that? Peter. Thompson looked at Peter with a sullen face. Who are you? You want me to apologize? Thompson pushed Peter with his big hands and pushed him directly onto a table. The table was knocked over and the books fell to the floor. What are you going to do? The owner of the desk immediately stood up angrily and stared at Thompson coldly. You knocked my desk over. Do you understand? You idiot. Everyone in the class immediately looked over in surprise. After Missy Kallenbach herself said these words, her expression suddenly changed. She didn't know why she said such words. This tone should not be the attitude she should have. It's just that the anger in his heart seemed to be unable to be suppressed for a moment and burst out directly. It must have been affected by what happened that night. Missy suddenly felt worried. Missy has felt like a different person since that night when she was robbed and attacked by a monster. She could clearly feel that she had become indifferent and seemed to have lost interest in the things she originally loved. Oh my god. What's going on today? These little transparent little ones in our class are all getting tough. Thompson was stunned for a moment, and then couldn't help laughing. A nerd who only immerses himself in reading and a girl from Florida who wears red glasses dare to talk to me like this. Thompson gave Missy a vicious look and waved his fist in front of Missy. Missy suddenly raised her eyelids and was startled. Of course, Thompson has not descended to the level of bullying girls. He didn't do anything again, nor did he help Missy hold up the table, but walked to his seat and sat down. Feel sorry. Only Peter got up from the ground and immediately helped Missy carry the table. It's okay. It's not your fault. Missy shook her head and forced a smile. But she didn't notice that several girls were glancing at her with cold eyes from time to time. The time soon reached noon. After lunch, Missy Kallenbach headed toward the bathroom. Several girls soon followed her to the bathroom door. Putting the cleaning sign at the door of the toilet, the girls looked at each other, showed proud smiles, and strode into the toilet. As soon as Missy was about to enter the toilet, a girl pulled her clothes and dragged her out. What are you going to do? Missy immediately looked at the girls in front of her in panic. How dare you speak to Thompson like that? Don't you want to live? You're a piece of shit. How dare you scold Thompson? Several girls were die-hard admirers of Thompson. When they saw Missy scolding Thompson in the morning, they were very angry, so they waited until now to take revenge on Missy. Have you forgotten what's going on in your own family? How dare you scold others? Stinky bitcha. You are a country bumpkin that no one in your family wants to see you. Wearing filthy red glasses all day long and a jacket that even my grandma doesn't wear, you look like a peasant woman from the last century who came to our school to beg. That's right. Look at the dirt on your face. How dare you say such things to Thompson? What qualifications do you have? You bitcha. The girls talked to each other and slapped Missy from time to time. Missy closed her eyes and kept sobbing. She could feel the girls' smelly saliva spraying onto her face. Missy closed her eyes. You are far worse than your sister. No wonder your mother doesn't care about you. Maybe your father was killed by you too. Let me see. Your real father was angry with you for being such a country bumpkin. That's why he was hit by a car and died. Several girls surrounded Missy. They spoke to each other, and every word struck a chord in Missy's sensitive heart. Enough. Missy, who had been crying, suddenly stopped. What did you say? Shao bitcha. The girls still didn't stop and continued to harass Missy. I said, enough. Missy's eyes were terrifyingly calm. Her body immediately stood up, and with seemingly boundless strength, she actually knocked several girls away. The girls fell to the smooth floor one after another, and each one fell into a pitiful state. You. The girls stopped talking before they finished speaking. In the horrified eyes of the girls, Missy's body actually began to twist and deform. Missy Kallenbach's body had completely changed in the blink of an eye. Her originally rustic but still delicate figure had now transformed into a ferocious monster. The silver-white body shone in the sunlight, as if a faint silver river was flowing. Every inch of skin seemed to be alive, and his breath exuded an aura of elegance and danger. A pair of eyes as deep and dark as an abyss. The body is decorated with feathers and beaks, like an elegant crane. Monster. You monster. The girls' eyes suddenly became frightened, and they shouted. I'm going to tell the police to arrest you, monster. You don't have this chance. Missy's eyes were cold, as if staring at a few weeds, looking down at the girls who had just bullied her. Immediately, silver-white energy feathers flew out of her body rapidly and entered the bodies of the girls in front of her. The girls who had been shouting could no longer speak and fell to the ground one by one. In Missy's waiting eyes, the girls quickly got up again. But they did not complete the evolution, and soon turned into sand and collapsed, dying beyond death. Oh my god. What have I done? Missy also regained her composure at this time. Looking at the grains of sand on the ground, she panicked and couldn't believe that she had done it. She took a deep breath, suppressed the panic in her heart, and strode towards the bathroom. Strange, isn't the bathroom being cleaned? Looking at Missy's back, several passers-by were puzzled. Mrs. Miles, don't worry. If we catch Andrew, we will notify you as soon as possible. If Andrew comes home, I hope you can tell me as soon as possible. Quote. At Andrew Meyer's home, Coulson bid farewell to Andrew's wife who burst into tears. After walking out of the door, he sighed, and then looked at the many vehicles parked not far from the street. Obviously, S.H.I.E.L.D. is not the only one targeting this family. Director. I have come out of Andrew's house. Coulson immediately reported to Nick Fury. Everything is normal, his wife and children all seem to be fine, it doesn't look like they are the key to knowing the inside story. But his wife gave me a valid message. She said that one night Andrew came back covered in blood and his clothes were stabbed with marks from a knife. From that day on, something seemed to have changed in Andrew. Quote. Okay. I'll check it out. After hanging up the phone, Coulson wiped his sweat and walked towards the red antique car parked on the roadside. Laura, it looks like we are very busy these days. Coulson said to the car, then stepped on the accelerator and drove the car quickly down the street. Coulson's work efficiency is not low, and his work ideas are also very clear. There was blood and stab wounds on Andrew's body, indicating that he had a struggle with someone else. So, is it him who touches others, or is it someone else who touches him? No, Andrew had just been fired that day, so he shouldn't be in the mood to commit robbery, and he had never had a criminal record. Then he should be the one who was robbed. Therefore, when Andrew encountered a robbery, he accidentally awakened his ability and turned into Aoife Enoch, and completed the counterattack against the robber. Quote. Coulson thought about it, his eyes became brighter and brighter, and he felt that he had found the truth. And right now, Coulson's pupils shrank, as if he noticed something. He immediately made a sharp turn. Bang! A tentacle hit the ground hard, making a big crater in the cement floor. You guy, why are you going to my house? Are you threatening my wife and children? Andrew, who had transformed into Aoife Enoch, jumped out from the side and looked at Coulson who was holding the vehicle steady. He showed an angry expression. You misunderstood. Andrew. I just want to help you. Coulson was worried and immediately explained to Andrew who suddenly appeared. We investigated what happened to you and learned what you went through, Andrew. It's not your fault, it's just that society is too cruel to you. However, there is no way you can continue like this. If you go against the US government, you won't survive long. Have you ever thought about your wife and children? They all depend on you to feed them. If you continue to persist in your obsession, how will they live? Quote. After hearing Coulson's words, Andrew seemed to be touched, his anger seemed to dissipate, and he fell silent. Then do I still have hope of turning back? Andrew raised his head and asked Coulson. Of course. Coulson nodded and said, let me introduce myself, I am a level 6 agent from S.H.I.E.L.D. Coulson took out his ID. S.H.I.E.L.D. Andrew frowned. That's right. S.H.I.E.L.D. The full name is the Homeland Strategic Defense Attack and Logistics Support Agency. It is a department that specializes in dealing with superpowers, aliens, and weird, new humans like you. We are under the direct command of the United Nations International Security Council and are not exclusive to any particular country. As long as you agree to cooperate with our investigation and research, I guarantee you that your wife will get a good job and your 3 children will get a good education. Quote. Coulson stated his terms. This is also what Nick Fury allowed. According to the investigation, Andrew's men did not take many lives. Apart from the robbers he killed that night, the only ones he killed were the 2 rich men he killed at Jerome's smart dinner party. Those 2 rich men had done a lot of bad things. Killing them could even be considered as a means of eradicating violence. So Andrew's sin is nothing, and it would be a very good thing to be recruited into S.H.I.E.L.D. Join S.H.I.E.L.D. Andrew was very moved. Compared with what Murakami Kyoko said about what makes humans become slaves of Enoch, what Coulson said is obviously more attractive. But how can I trust you? Andrew immediately looked at Coulson and said coldly. How do I know you're not with guys like Tony Stark and Jerome Lin? Aren't you the best at colluding with others? Quote. You have no choice, Andrew. You have to trust me. Coulson got out of the car at this time. He opened his hand to indicate that he was not armed. he said to Andrew earnestly. Joining SHIELD is your only choice. You have offended Tony Stark and Jerome Lin, as well as the rich and powerful people in the United States. The police have begun to want you, and your wife and children are also wanted. Being watched. Only by joining SHIELD can all of this be reversed. Quote. Coulson poured out his heart and soul and introduced to Andrew the various benefits of cooperating with SHIELD's investigation. Andrew was also very excited. This was undoubtedly the best arrangement for his family. It's just that he is still worried about whether Coulson is cheating on him, and he cannot bear the price of being cheated. But Andrew also knew that, just as Coulson said, he had no way out now. If what you say is true, then I promise you. I can accept your conditions, even lose my freedom and obey your orders. But my wife and children must get the conditions you said. After Andrew finished speaking, a cold light burst out from his eyes. But if you lie to me, I swear I won't make it easy for you. Of course, no problem. That's fair. Coulson didn't care at all about his threat. Then he thought of something and immediately asked. By the way, Andrew, how did you become, well, Aoife Enoch? I paid the price with my life. I saw, Andrew said. That night, I was actually killed. When I was resurrected, I had this power. Killed. Resurrected. Coulson's pupils shrank, and he was startled by what the other party said. Then did you receive some unique power to become Orpheus Enoch? In other words, are there any specific conditions required to become Orpheus Enoch after death? Quote. No need. If you have this potential, you will automatically awaken as Orphenic after death. For every 10,000 people who die, only one may become Orpheus Enoch. This is what the person who saved me that day told me. Quote. Andrew answered Coulson's question truthfully. He knew that the more information he gave Coulson now, the more contribution he would make, and perhaps the better treatment his wife and children would receive. Who was the person who rescued you that day? Coulson had actually secretly turned on the watch computer on his hand and recorded his communication with Andrew. It all syncs to Nick Fury's computer. Be careful. Andrew suddenly exclaimed. He immediately changed into the form of the stickleback Aoife Enoch, and with a flick of his tail, Coulson was taken aside. Bang! A gray shadow fell on where Coulson was just now. A big hole was made directly on the ground. Dust filled the air, and broken stones kept throwing themselves around. Coulson's car, Laura, was riddled with holes. But Coulson was fine under Andrew's protection. HMPH. That guy, how dare you disobey your orders? Prepare to join the official human organization. A huge figure stepped out of the smoke. This figure is tall and burly, several times stronger than the stickleback Aoife Enoch. The skin is dark gray, rough and thick, and it seems to have extremely strong defense and strength. The head is particularly huge, like a pair of tusks entangled from the back of the head to the chest, and the body is decorated like armor. It's Enoch the elephant. Andrew took a deep breath, with cold sweat on his head. Not only that, there's also me. Andrew and Coulson looked in the direction of the sound, their eyes even more frightened. This is another burly figure about the same size as the elephant Orpheus Enoch. The figure has the characteristics of a cow, with a pair of oversized horns on both sides of its head. He also has huge arms that match his strong upper body. The armor on both shoulders is connected to large fist-shaped iron balls. Bull Orpheus Enoch. There was more cold sweat on Andrew's head. Have you forgotten me? Stupid thing. Swish. A gray shadow appeared less than 10 meters away from Andrew. He looks like an upright mantis, with eyes shaped like mantis's compound eyes, and two-armed scythes. What frightened Andrew even more was that the other party's hand actually held a pile of clothes that were familiar to him. Andrew couldn't believe it. He was fascinated by the clothes in the other person's hands, and his eyes became even redder. Are you talking about this? Alas. I'm so sorry. Your wife and 3 children don't seem to have the qualifications to become Aoife Enoch. A look of ridicule appeared on Enoch's face, and he shook the clothes in his hands. Gray sand was sprinkled like ashes. Andrew's body trembled, and he wanted to say something, but nothing came out when he opened his mouth. The pain filled his throat, and he could only make a roar like, ho. He felt his heart being torn into pieces, pain and anger boiling in his heart. Finally, 10 seconds later, all his pain and anger burst out. I'm going to kill you. Kill you. Kill you. Kill you all. Andrew's trident swung fiercely at Mantis Aoife Enoch. His eyes were already red, and his whole person seemed to be crazy. The attack fell towards Mantis Aoife Enoch like a violent storm. You two, stop watching the show. Come and help. Andrew's desperate attack also put the Mantis Aoife Enoch under tremendous pressure. He immediately angrily yelled at the elephant Aoife Enoch and the bull Aoife Enoch on one side. Can't you even deal with such a guy? Really? Although the two Aoife Enoch laughed at each other, they immediately joined the fight. After all, I just killed this man's whole family, so it's better not to underestimate a man's will to avenge his family. Under the joint siege of the three-oar phoenix, Andrew was suppressed even if he tried his best. He was hit by the three-oar phoenix repeatedly, and sparks continued to splash out. Fury, now I have to take action. Coulson had already abandoned the car and ran dozens of meters away. But when I looked back and saw this scene, I could only grit my teeth, took out my Glock, and shot at the three Aoife Enoch not far away. Ding! Ding! The 9mm bullets hit the bodies of the three Aoife Enochs, but they were unable to break the skin of each other. Oh! You dare to take action. Despicable human. Bull Aoife Enoch suddenly looked in Coulson's direction coldly. He knocked Andrew to the ground with a heavy punch, then lowered his head and pointed a pair of huge horns at Coulson. Wait to be crushed by me. The bull Aoife Enoch laughed, took long strides, and rushed towards Coulson. Fake, so fast. Coulson's eyes widened. He didn't expect that the burly bull Aoife Enoch could run as fast as a small truck. Coulson turned around and ran into the woods on one side, trying to use the trees to resist the opponent's attack. However, the trunks of the trees in this grove were not thick. Under the impact of the bull Enoch, each root was either uprooted or broken at the waist. The pair of big horns of the bull Aoife Enoch rushed in front of Coulson in the blink of an eye. Fury, it seems I have to say goodbye to you this time. Coulson's forehead with a very high hairline was covered with sweat. He was running in an S shape to avoid the pursuit of the bull Enoch, while reporting the situation to Nick Fury. Coulson, stay alive. I order you to stay alive for me. Nick Fury was in a panic inside the hub base. Coulson was his confidant and his right-hand man, and he absolutely couldn't lose it like this. I can't run away anymore. There is a park in front of me, and I will accidentally injure other people. Coulson simply reported, but Nick Fury heard his determination. Nick Fury was silent for a while, and finally said nothing. Fly. Ha ha. The moment Coulson changed his escape route, Enoch the bull seized the opportunity. A pair of big horns pointed at Coulson's body, seemingly trying to push him away. Coulson kept shooting bullets behind him, but he could only watch the pair of big horns getting closer and closer. Just when Dajao was only 10 centimeters away from him. In his peripheral vision, Coulson saw a yellow figure falling rapidly, and then stepped hard on the head of the bull Aoife Enoch. Boom! The bull Aoife Enoch landed his head on the ground first, and then he lay on the ground with his burly body. You successfully influenced Phil Coulson and obtained 100 special influence factors. Lin Wusheng's scarlet eyes glanced at Coulson in front of him. He stood there blankly, as if his brain was still unable to react. You're welcome. Lin Wusheng gestured to Coulson and immediately jumped from the head of the bull Aoife Enoch to the ground, with the briefcase king sword in his hand already unfolded. Bang! Bang! The two swords were swung out, and the bull Aoife Enoch screamed under Lin Wusheng's chop. Locust man. The eyes of Enoch the bull were full of panic. He didn't expect to encounter this plague god in broad daylight. This is the existence that the leader of the crowd, Murakami Kyoji, has always told not to come into contact with. If you know how powerful I am, just catch me as soon as possible. Otherwise I won't be polite to you. Lin Wusheng sneered and placed the briefcase king sword on the neck of Enoch the bull. Fake. You underestimate me too much. The bull Aoife Enoch was so angry that white breath came out of his nostrils. His body immediately bounced off the ground, and his huge horns threw Lin Wusheng's briefcase king sword aside. Let me see if you, the locust man, are as powerful as the rumors say. Bull Aoife Enoch quickly approached Lin Wusheng, and the two fist-shaped iron balls in his hands hit Lin Wusheng fiercely. I'm going to smash you into a pulp. The bull Aoife Enoch was indeed very strong. He could swing 2 3-ton iron balls freely, seemingly effortlessly. Even Lin Wusheng was unable to suppress the opponent's momentum. Haha. That's all you are. Locust Man. Seeing that his iron ball suppressed Lin Wusheng and kept retreating, Bull Ifa Enoch's eyes suddenly showed a look of surprise, and he suddenly became proud. Really? Then try this. Lin Wusheng took out an ice blue program sublimation key from nowhere, pressed the switch, and scanned it on his drive. Blizzard. Blizzard. Authorize. Authorization. A huge ice and snow polar bear suddenly fell from the sky and landed in front of Lin Wusheng, knocking the Bull Ifa Enoch directly back. Transformation. Lin Wusheng inserted the frozen polar bear program sublimation key into the drive. Progrise. Program upgrade. Attention freeze. Freeze is coming. Freezing bear. Frozen white bear, fierce breath as cold as Arctic winds, bitter cold winds, sweeping across the polar regions. The mechanical prompt sounds. The yellow armor on Lin Wusheng's body began to fly out continuously, turning into a stream of data and disappearing. The huge ice and snow polar bear immediately pounced on him, covering his body with a layer of armor like ice and snow. Kamen Rider 01. Frozen polar bear form appears. New armor. Fury, did you see it? Locust Man is covered with a new layer of armor. Coulson immediately used his mobile phone and computer to quickly record Lin Wusheng's current appearance. The shock in his eyes couldn't go away. You successfully influenced Phil Coulson and obtained 100 special influence factors. Lin Wusheng listened to the prompt and glanced at Coulson unexpectedly. He didn't expect that Coulson was also a treasure boy. It seemed that he would have to pay more attention in the future. Thoughts flashed through his mind. Lin Wusheng stretched out his hand and punched the Bull Ifa Enoch away, who was still in shock. In this form, he already has more than 40 tons of arm strength and more than 90 tons of punching power. It can be said that it is easy to deal with an Ifa Enoch. As long as the opponent is not a strong person such as Dragon Afi, Goat Afi, Rose Afi, etc., the basic form of Kamen Rider 01 is still holding these ordinary Afi Enoch in hand. Why did you change your form? Can you still be called Locust Man like this? Bull Ifa Enoch climbed up from the ground, feeling the chill coming from Lin Wusheng's body, and couldn't help but shiver. When you go to hell, remember to tell me my name. My name is Kamen Rider 01. Lin Wusheng strode forward and grabbed the horns of the Bull Ifa Enoch with one hand to ensure that he could not escape. Then he clenched his fists, and the cold air condensed on them. Boom. Punch out. The two horns of Enoch the bull were almost broken, and his eyes were filled with stars. Lin Wusheng was like a flower monk punching Guangxi. 3 punches in a row. He struck the Bull Enoch hard on the head. Bang! Lin Wusheng let go. The huge body of the Bull Ifa Enoch fell to the ground helplessly. I do not. Before he could finish his words, the Bull Enoch completely turned into sand and was blown away among the trees by the wind. Locust. Mr. Kamen Rider. Please save that Ifa Enoch. Seeing Lin Wusheng take down the Bull Aofei, Coulson stepped forward anxiously, hoping to get his help to save Andrew. He's hopeless. Lin Wusheng just shook his head and watched a figure being knocked aside. The stickleback Orpheus Enoch was first beaten by 3 Orpheus Enoch and suffered serious injuries. Even if Afi the bull later chases Coulson, the remaining Afi the elephant and Afi the mantis are enough to kill him. Ahem. Polly, Carl. Andrew fell to the ground and his body returned to its human form. He was very unwilling that he could not avenge his family. But knowing that his death was coming, he immediately stared at Coulson, as if he had some last wish. I'm here. Coulson immediately came to Andrew's side and supported his body. The person who saved me, his name is, Ahem. His name is, When Andrew was about to reveal the true identity of Enoch Rose, he failed to hold on. His whole body turned into sand and scattered in Coulson's hands. Hey! Andrew! Onder! Looking at Andrew disappearing in his hands, Coulson wanted to save him, but he was in a hurry. He could only watch the other party completely dissipate, leaving only some grains of sand on his hands. Coulson rubbed the sand on his hands, feeling as if life was passing away on his hands. His heart is very complicated. It's not that I have much sympathy for Andrew, but I feel sorry for the loss of a family's life. You beasts! Coulson immediately looked angrily at the elephant Afi and the mantis Afi in front of him. Afi the elephant and Afi the mantis ignored Coulson and just looked at Lin Wusheng warily. Locust Man. No. We should call him Polar Bear Man now. He killed Corwin. Afi the elephant took a defensive stance, and Afi the mantis also unfolded his swords. The expressions on the two Ifa Enoch's faces were extremely solemn. Since the armored figure in front of him could easily kill Bull Ifa, he could easily kill them all. Okay. Give you two a chance. Now kneel before me and surrender, and I can spare your lives. Lin Wusheng put his hands behind his back and made electronic sounds from his mouth, making it impossible to tell his true identity. Although many people know it now, most people still don't know it. It is necessary for Lin Wusheng to maintain a mysterious posture so that he can gain a large number of influence factors on the day his identity is announced. Are you kidding me? You want us to surrender with you, a human being? Afi the elephant and Afi the mantis both felt offended. The bull, the elephant, and the mantis are all natives of this world. After dying due to various reasons, he became Orpheus Enoch, and was taken back by Murakami Kyaji and brainwashed. From then on, he felt that Orpheus was a nobler creature than human beings, and he worked hard to transform all humans around the world into Orpheus. Asking them to surrender to Lin Wusheng was undoubtedly an insult to their noble status. No matter what, I can only give it a try. The elephant Ifa Enoch roared angrily, and his body actually began to expand again. The upper body remained basically unchanged, but the lower body began to undergo constant changes. He once again grew 2 elephant legs, his length reached more than 7 meters, and his height reached more than 4 meters. This is his unique charging form, weighing more than 20 tons, which is the same as a truck. Die. The elephant Ao Fei quickly bumped towards Lin Wusheng, moving his 2 front legs, trying to crush Lin Wusheng. And Mantis Ao Fei's figure also flashed, and the skirt-like feathers led him to fly quickly behind Lin Wusheng. The two of them formed a flanking attack, preparing to deal with Lin Wusheng. Careful! Coulson exclaimed, reminding Lin Wusheng. But Lin Wusheng didn't care at all and just stretched lazily. Then he raised his hands under Coulson's surprised gaze. Whoops! A large amount of cold air blew out of Lin Wusheng's palm instantly. It's so cold! The elephant Afi and the mantis Afi both exclaimed. After being hit by the cold air, they immediately stopped attacking and turned around to quickly move away from Lin Wusheng. Even Ifa Enoch's body couldn't bear the gas that was more than 200 degrees below zero. Lin Wusheng jumped up and came to the two Ifa Enoch. He immediately stretched out a pair of ice-blue claws on his hands and started a powerful attack on the two Ao Fei. The claws were extremely sharp, and coupled with Lin Wusheng's huge strength, every time they swung at the two Ao Fei Enoch, a large group of sparks would explode. After more than a dozen blows, the two Ifa Enoch could no longer bear it. The huge body of the elephant Ifa Enoch collapsed to the ground and returned to its normal state. And the mantis Ifa Enoch also fell to the ground, his breath sluggish. Both Ifa Enoch temporarily lost the ability to resist. If you had surrendered earlier, would you have suffered so much? Lin Wusheng shook his head and sighed. Fortunately, I am a kind person, otherwise you would have died today. I am so kind, it should be natural for you to do experiments for me in the future, right? Facing Lin Wusheng's question, the two Ifa Enoch fell to the ground, opening their mouths and closing their eyes, obviously lacking the strength to answer. In that case, you two acquiesce. Happy cooperation. Lin Wusheng's big hand once again sprayed cold air at the two Ophe Enochs, freezing the two Ophe Enochs directly into ice cubes. The bodies of the two Ifa Enoch were frozen in the large ice block, temporarily losing their ability to move. It was only then that Lin Wusheng stopped what he was doing and prepared to take the two Ifa Enoch away. Ahem. Hello, Locust Man, I am FBI agent Phil Coulson. Thank you for your help. Seeing that Lin Wusheng wanted to leave, Coulson immediately stepped forward and showed his identity to Lin Wusheng. Since SHIELD is not famous at all and is a secret organization, SHIELD agents often use the name of the FBI when outside. No need to thank me, as I said, I am a kind person and I don't want to see you suffer. Lin Wusheng glanced at Coulson. The only reason why he came to save Coulson was because of the special influence factor provided by Coulson. Moreover, Coulson played a lot of roles in the MCU universe, so it is a pity that he is dead now. You are such a kind person. We at the FBI will appreciate your efforts. Coulson sincerely praised him and once again provided Lin Wusheng with 100 special influence factors. Coulson wanted to say something else, but Lin Wusheng didn't pay much attention to Coulson. He just tied the 2 ice cubes with Aoife Enoch with a rope, and then looked at Jerome Smart direction. Coming. Lin Wusheng narrowed his eyes and raised the corners of his mouth in a strange arc. What's coming? Coulson was stunned. The enemy is coming. Lin Wusheng didn't look at Coulson, his eyes only focused on the Jerome building not far away. Boom. I only heard an explosion soon, ringing near the Jerome building. What happened? Coulson's pupils suddenly shrank. That was the most central and prosperous area in Manhattan. How could an explosion happen? Lin Wusheng ignored him and just jumped away quickly carrying 2 ice cubes. Coulson immediately turned on the voice on the watch computer. Fury, did you see it? What just happened on the streets of Manhattan? I know. Because Hill and the others were attacked. Someone took advantage of Jerome Lin's absence to kidnap Sky. Nick Fury's voice came from the watch. But I see that Jerome Lin doesn't look worried at all. He just seemed to be watching a show. Coulson looked confused. That's because another Kamen rider appeared on the scene. Nick Fury's tone was solemn and excited. This Jerome has no idea how many secrets he has hidden. He is really a guy who messes with Falco. Another Kamen rider. Coulson's eyes flashed as he focused on the explosion site in the distance, as if he wanted to see immediately what the second Kamen rider would look like. Hours before Lin Wusheng rescued Coulson. A room on the upper floor of a hotel in Manhattan. Through the airtight curtains, 2 pairs of cold eyes kept looking around Jerome Smart. Why doesn't this woman come out yet? A big man wearing a red uniform with a snake tail that was constantly wriggling behind him frowned and said impatiently. Rattlesnake, don't be anxious. The horned rattlesnake asked the 2 of us to keep an eye on it. Naturally, it took a fancy to our patients. A man of medium build and wearing a snake hat said leisurely. He also held a box of Mexican tacos in his hand and was stuffing them into his mouth one after another. It was so delicious. The African tree snake squinted its eyes and let out a groan from its soul. Although he is Australian, he likes Mexican tacos very much. That's not because we are patient, it's just that in the eyes of the horned rattlesnake, the 2 of us are brainless and can only do this kind of surveillance work. The rattlesnake snorted coldly. That's right. Our brains are indeed not flexible. The African tree snake nodded affirmatively. That was you. Not me. Diamondback retorted. Wait, what flew by? After a few minutes, the lazy expression of the African tree snake disappeared instantly, but was replaced by a sharp look like a poisonous snake. His eyes were staring at the sky, and with a slight squint, he could faintly make out a yellow figure leaving Jerome Intelligence. It's Locust Man. Locust Man is gone. The African tree snake's eyes lit up and he spoke happily. Why do you care about Locust Man? Our target is the woman named Sky. The rattlesnake was immediately worried about the intelligence of the African tree snake. But without Locust Man, it will be easier for us to attack Sky. The African tree snake said, of course. What if Locust Man comes to help when we kidnap Sky? But now we don't have to guard against Locust Man and just concentrate on waiting for Sky. 2. The rattlesnake was stunned for a moment before he reacted, his tone was slightly sour, and he was suddenly jealous of the African tree snake's IQ. The 2 waited for another 10 minutes before their eyes lit up one after another. Appeared. I saw a beautiful and a little wild figure walking out of the door of Jerome Intelligent building with a crowd of people. Then he got into a Bentley and drove down the street. Around her vehicle, there were 4 or 5 vehicles escorting her. Brother. The target has appeared. Heading toward Washington Street. The rattlesnakes and African tree snakes immediately reported to the horned rattlesnake who was in charge of everything. Roger that. And on a street in Manhattan. In a low-key business car, there was a rattlesnake and a group of gunmen with live ammunition. The target has appeared, the whole team is setting off. We must capture Sky alive. The horned rattlesnake ordered into his cell phone. Roger that. On different streets in New York, a commercial vehicle drove out almost at the same time and surrounded the convoy of Sky and others. Phew. It's my first time to attend a party as a billionaire. I'm a little nervous. On the bustling streets of New York, Sky wore exquisite makeup and a smart suit, her hands trembling slightly. She was invited to attend a jeweler's charity dinner, something she had promised a noble lady at her birthday party that day. Don't worry, madam. The boss has arranged everything. I will help you later, just follow the process. Agent Hill sat in the co-pilot, checking the documents and processes while talking to Sky. Fortunately, I have you, Hill. Sky said gratefully to Hill. Although she only communicated with Hill for a few days, Sky's hostility towards Hill completely turned into admiration. The opponent's ability is really too strong, he can do almost everything. And I heard that he was a soldier who served in the army before. It seemed that Lin Wusheng kept her by his side not because of any thoughts, but because he really took a fancy to her abilities. You're welcome. This is what I should do, ma'am. Hill's face was always filled with calmness. She bowed her head slightly towards Sky and said. She is now playing the role of an assistant, and she needs to play an assistant well. Call me Sky, Hill. The word madam is really awkward to me. Sky clicked her tongue. As an orphan who had been homeless since she was a child, it was really difficult for her to play the role of a noble lady. If she didn't want to contribute to Lin Wusheng's career, Sky would rather stay in her room every day and watch dramas than attend such high-end gatherings and talk and act hypocritically under the spotlight and flashing lights. Yes, ma'am. Hill nodded. The motorcade drove down the street in an orderly manner, as if it was about to arrive at its destination. Boom. A violent explosion resounded in everyone's ears. The BMW car at the beginning was blown up into the sky. Fortunately, all the people sitting inside were Humagia, and there were no casualties. But the explosion in the downtown area immediately caused huge panic. The crowd immediately screamed and fled on the street, and the other vehicles also drove elsewhere like frightened fish, regardless of traffic regulations. Be careful, madam. This explosion is coming for you. Hill's eyes flashed coldly and he immediately looked towards the street. I saw the 2 or 3 commercial vehicles were quickly blocking the front and back of the street, blocking the path of Sky and his party. Then the car door opened immediately, and heavily armed gunmen immediately jumped out of the commercial vehicle and quickly surrounded Sky's vehicle. Go. Get out of the car. Seeing each of the Humagia bodyguards fall in the hail of bullets from the gunmen, Agent Hill immediately asked several Humagia bodyguards to stop at the car door, and then took Sky out of the car. Let's go this way. Hill and Sky quickly walked towards the mall on one side. Several Humagia bodyguards were covering them. Where do you want to escape to? But what made Hill's heart sink was that a figure suddenly fell from the sky and landed not far from them, blocking their way. Viper Squad. Hill looked at the other party's unique decoration, took a deep breath, and secretly thought something was wrong. Yes, it's us. You're a knowledgeable person. The horned rattlesnake and a group of venomous snakes also rushed to the mall. The customers and stores in the mall fled one after another, and soon only the Viper team, Hill, and Sky were left in the entire mall. Miss Sky, please come with us. We sincerely thank Mr. Jerome. He transformed into the Locust Man, but he killed many of our brothers and sisters. The horned rattlesnake looked at Sky with a smile, like a sunny and cheerful boy, but the sound of gnashing teeth made Sky shudder. Don't even think about it. Hill immediately pulled his pistol from his inner thigh and shot the rattlesnake several times. But when the bullet was about to hit the horned rattlesnake's body disappeared in the blink of an eye. Oh, is it so accurate? But I disappoint you. My cloak has superpowers. The horned rattlesnake looked at Hill with a look of shock in his eyes. It seems that Mr. Jerome is really surrounded by talents. With your shooting skills, you are definitely not as simple as an ordinary assistant. You are an agent, right? The horned rattlers were still reeling from Hill's several shots. The opponent's marksmanship is fast and accurate. If his cloak hadn't had the ability to teleport, he would have been shot dead by Hill. Hill did not answer the other party's question, but whispered in Sky's ear. Wait while I hold them back, madam, you can escape through the back door. Run towards the Jerome Intelligent Building. I just called for support in the car. They will be there soon. But what about you? Sky worries about Hill's safety. I'm fine. As long as my wife is safe and sound, that's fine. Hill said to Sky, the pistol in his hand fired again at the horned rattlesnake in front of him. Kill everyone except Mrs. Sky. The horned rattlesnake dodged Hill's bullet, with a gloomy expression on his face as he gave orders to the poisonous snakes around him. Now the gunmen have stopped to avoid accidentally hurting Sky. It was up to the Vipers to catch Sky. On. As soon as the horned rattlesnake finished speaking, a figure jumped out quickly. It was the African tree snake that had previously been conducting surveillance in the hotel with the rattlesnake. He was extremely fast, like an arrow from a string. He held a snake-shaped sickle in his hand and swung it quickly towards Agent Hill's neck. Agent Hill pushed Sky hard and then leaned back to avoid the attack of the African tree snake. Run! Hill yelled at Sky, then straightened up and kicked forward sharply. The African tree snake immediately blocked it with its thighs. Dang dang. They both took 3 steps back. Sky looked at Hill and knew that staying here was just a burden, so she ran out the back door with long strides. The remaining 4 bodyguards, Eximagia, were with her. You can't run away. A green figure made a sliding shovel on the smooth mall floor, and immediately shoveled 2 Eximagia away, blocking Sky's way. This figure was extremely ugly and terrifying. It actually had the head of a snake on a human body. Snakewalker, a mutant, was once a member of Magneto's Brotherhood of Mutants, but later joined the Viper Squad for profit. Sky was startled by the appearance of the Snake Walker, and froze in place for a moment. Ha ha ha, you are so scared. What I love most is seeing the fear in your eyes, it is so interesting. So. The snake runner's words stopped abruptly. His head suddenly exploded. Snakecrawler. The scene in front of them immediately stunned everyone. It's really useful. Amid everyone's surprise, a figure jumped from the 3rd floor of the mall. It's you, you wolf cub. The horned rattlesnake was so angry that he immediately recognized the other person as Jack Russell, the midnight werewolf who had been hunted by the Viper team for a long time. That's right. It's me. You guys bullied me and Ted so much back then. Now it's time for our roles to be reversed. Russell's eyes were full of excitement. Previously, he and the 2 humanoids were hunted down by the Viper Squad, and it was a miserable time. Now he finally has a chance to come back with revenge. He was holding a unique blue card in his hand, and there was a belt with a strange pistol around his waist, which looked like he was hiding some secret. Go and get rid of him. Looking at this scene, the horned rattlesnake immediately felt a strong sense of crisis, and immediately gave instructions to the rattlesnake on the side. The figure of the rattlesnake shot out quickly, its tail whipping towards Russell fiercely. Russell, however, calmly opened the program sublimation key in his hand. Flip the switch. Bullet. Bullet. Then insert the shooting wolf program sublimation key into the shooting sublimator on your waist. Authorize. Authorization. Kamen Rider. Kamen Rider. Kamen Rider. Russell took off the shooting sublimator from his belt, pressed the trigger, and an energy bullet shot out quickly. Transform. The bullet drove the rattlesnake back directly, and then returned to Russell. Russell clenched his fist and punched the bullet. The bullet immediately shattered into countless armor fragments. Then it continued to gather and cover Russell's body. Show tries. Shooting upgrade. Shooting wolf. Shooting wolf. The elevation increases as the bullet is fired. Rapidly fired, the bullet comes out of the chamber. When the sound effect ended, a brand new armored figure suddenly appeared in front of everyone. The lines of the armor are smooth, just like the muscle lines of a wolf, full of movement and power. Half of it is a deep silvery gray, like the oily fur of a wild wolf, full of mysterious wildness. The other half is sky blue, showing a coldness derived from technology. The shape of the head armor is like a lone wild wolf, with sharp ears standing straight up, as if it is always monitoring the movements around it, as if it does not trust anyone, and is wary and hostile to everything. Those light blue eyes were deep and cold, as if they could see through all hypocrisy and lies. But when all of this is combined, it presents a sense of futuristic technology. Kamen Rider Barkan is here. Another set of technological armor. The horned rattlesnake's pupils were shaking. Unexpectedly, Russell also wore a suit of armor. Fake. The locust man is gone, and here comes another wild wolf man. The eyes of the other poisonous snakes were also full of shock, and they didn't know what to do for a moment. Another. Kamen Rider. Agent Hill's pupils immediately dilated. The boss said, "Don't leave anyone behind. So you, all die." Russell remembered the order given to him by Lin Wusheng, and immediately held the shooting sublimator in hand and pointed it directly at the rattlesnake closest to him. Not good. The rattlesnake felt his hair standing on end and felt a deep sense of terror. He immediately flicked his thick tail and prepared to escape. Call out. Bullets fired. The rattlesnake's body suddenly turned into a pile of rotten flesh, scattering in all directions. Run. Give up, Sky. The horned rattlesnake knew that his plan could no longer succeed. What we have to do now is to preserve the remaining vitality of the Viper squad. Fire. He ordered the gunmen to open fire while letting the members of the Viper squad run away. But now there are only 3 people in the Viper team, including him. The African tree snake was the farthest away, let go of the struggle with Agent Hill, and jumped towards the outside of the mall. But the rock python's huge body has become a good target. Before he could run a few meters away, he was completely killed by the energy bullet fired by Kamen Rider Barkan. All Examagia, come here and protect Madam and Assistant Hill. Russell gave the order, and he also came with a team of Examagia. I saw Humagia immediately protecting Hill and Sky in the center, resisting the bullets of the gunmen. Russell quickly pulled the trigger to deal with these gunmen. In the face of the powerful strength of Kamen Rider Barkan, these gunmen were quickly eliminated, which also declared that the operation of the Viper team had completely failed. In an alley in Manhattan, the figure of the horned rattlesnake ran desperately, activating the ability of the cloak from time to teleport, for fear of being caught up by Kamen Rider Barkan. Call. After running non-stop for more than 10 minutes, he reached a location that he didn't even know he was in. Only when he felt safe did the horned rattlesnake stop. I didn't expect Jerome to be smart and have masters. The horned rattlesnake was panting in the alley with a startled look in its eyes. Unexpectedly, his perfect plan failed in the blink of an eye. Now the Viper team lost several good players again, leaving only him and the African tree snake. I don't know if the African tree snake escaped. The horned rattlesnake began to think about his future arrangements. But he was not too anxious. Even if there were only 2 people left in the Viper squad, he could easily pull out another Viper squad with his own mind. As long as you don't die, everything is possible. Wait, Jerome Lin. In my lifetime, I will make you pay with blood. The horned rattlesnake roared. You have no more time to live. The horned rattlesnake's pupils shrank to a small point, and the hairs all over its body exploded. Hearing this familiar voice, the cloak on his body began to tremble. Swish. His figure appeared at the other end of the street, but just as he was about to leave, he felt a big hand grabbing his throat. The horned rattlesnake immediately turned red and his veins bulged. It's all in my calculations. I've calculated the teleportation method of your cloak and the teleportation location. Lin Wusheng's mocking tone came from under the Kamen Rider 01 armor. Spare my life. The horned rattlesnake begged for mercy, struggling to pronounce a few syllables. He doesn't want to die, but he still has hundreds of millions of dollars that he hasn't spent yet. I do not. Click. Lin Wusheng exerted force on his arm and heard a crisp sound. The horned rattlesnake suddenly tilted its head, its orifices were bleeding, and its eyes popped out like a frog. In order to prevent you from turning into Enoch, I will destroy you more completely. Lin Wusheng switched to the flaming tiger form, spitting out flames and directly cremating the horned rattlesnake on the spot. You successfully influenced Seth Walker, the horned rattlesnake, and obtained 700 special influence factors. As the system prompt sounded, Lin Wusheng nodded with satisfaction. His behavior of switching forms in order to destroy corpses is probably rare among Kamen Riders. Even if the Viper squad's matter is over, Roxanne can't cause any trouble for the time being. Lin Wusheng clapped his hands, his expression relaxed. The Viper squad is the top thugs of Roxanne Energy. Without them, it would be difficult for Roxanne Energy to carry out many of its dirty work. Then it is Jerome's smart move towards their best move. However, it is still very difficult to completely destroy Roxanne. Lin Wusheng touched his chin. The real protagonist of Roxanne Energy is Dario Agger. He gained the divine power of the Minotaur in Greek mythology and had the same level of power as Thor, the god of thunder. Lin Wusheng estimated that he would have to at least bring out the metal cluster locusts to be able to compete with the opponent. Fortunately, the opponent is not on the earth now, so Lin Wusheng has enough time to develop. Sky shouldn't be frightened. I need to calm him down. Lin Wusheng felt a little guilty in his heart. In order to lure all the Vipers out, he used Sky as bait. He was confident that Sky would be unharmed, but shock was unavoidable. Lin Wusheng shook his head and walked towards the mall where the incident occurred. He switched back to the high-leaping locust form and quickly arrived at the scene in a few jumps. Sky was still a little panicked when she saw a large number of Humagia at the scene and began to clean up the battlefield. Agent Hill was accompanying her. And Jack Russell, the midnight werewolf who turned into Kamen Rider Barkan, was constantly looking at himself in front of a mirror in a shopping mall. He made a few fierce moves from time to time and seemed to be fascinated by his handsomeness. The police were blocked by Humagia on the outside, and there were no other people in the mall. Lin Wusheng jumped to the middle of the mall with confidence. Little boss. Before Agent Hill could finish saying, "Be careful," he realized who it was. Forest. Sky immediately threw herself into Lin Wusheng's arms, her tears flowing down like a waterfall, and she poured out all the grievances in her heart. "I'm here. It'll be okay." Lin Wusheng removed his armor, hugged Sky, and comforted her softly. The surrounding Humagia occupied this two-story shopping mall and patrolled the surroundings vigilantly. Hill and Russell also guarded the two of them to prevent sudden attacks. Sky remained silent in Lin Wusheng's arms for half an hour before he raised his tearful face. "I'm so scared. I know. But don't worry, have you seen him? He is specially set up for your safety." Lin Wusheng pointed to Russell on the side. The opponent was a good match for Kamen Rider Barkan, so Lin Wusheng gave him Barkan's power. "Hello. Madam. I will protect you every time you go out." Russell bent forward gracefully, like a butler. He is quite happy inside now. Living in the Jerome Intelligent building every day, although he had no worries about food, clothing, or fun, he always felt that he was missing something. Now that he could transform into Kamen Rider Barkan and go out and take revenge, Russell suddenly seemed to have found what he was missing, which was wildness. As a werewolf, no matter how hard he is kept in captivity, he cannot turn into a dog. Is this also a Kamen Rider? You didn't even tell me. Sky immediately pouted and looked at Lin Wusheng. This is Kamen Rider Barkan. The new Kamen Rider armor I developed. Lin Wusheng pinched Sky's little face and said. While I'm away, Barkan will protect your safety. Your safety is more important than the entire Jerome intelligence. Sky innocently buried her head in Lin Wusheng's arms again, as if the fright she had just received had completely dissipated. Boss, the police chief outside wants to talk to you. There are many media reporters waiting for interviews. It had been more than an hour since Sky's convoy was attacked. In fact, the police arrived at the scene a long time ago, but they were blocked by Humagia who was on guard at the scene. Now that Lin Wusheng was free, an assistant from Examagia came over to report. Let the police come in. Forget about the reporters. Lin Wusheng ordered. Soon, a familiar figure led a group of police officers to Lin Wusheng. Mr. Jerome. George Stacy was also in a cold sweat now. He was already shocked when he received the news of an explosion on the streets of Manhattan. When the police reported that Jerome Smart's convoy was attacked, he was even more sweaty. Jerome Intelligence is a major customer of the New York Police Department. It donates a lot of new police products every year, as well as police-type Exmagia. These things are very useful and have helped the police solve many problems. If something happens to Jerome Smart, then the New York Police Department will have a much harder time. Mr. Jerome. Chief Stacy. Lin Wusheng and George Stacy held hands. George had a look of shame on his face. Mr. Jerome, I'm so sorry. This is the negligence of our New York police. Needless to say, the Viper Gang is the best mercenary organization in the world, and the New York police can't do much even if they arrive in time. Lin Wusheng's words made George silent for a while. Indeed, the Viper Gang has caused chaos more than once in New York, but the New York police have never caught them. Not only the New York police, but police all over the country have nothing to do with them. The FBI is helpless against them. Because every police action will be circumvented by the Viper Gang in time. There are forces behind the Viper Gang. Lin Wusheng looked at George Stacy. As a police chief, the other party is considered conscientious, not to mention his outstanding achievements. There is no clear wind on both sleeves, but neither is he collaborating with criminals. He is a qualified police chief. Therefore, Lin Wusheng was still willing to give him some credit. To deal with Roxxon energy, official forces still need to take action together. Do you know who Mr. Jerome is? George Stacy narrowed his eyes and felt a little moved. The police already knew that there was someone behind the Viper gang. The other party can escape the pursuit of the police and FBI every time, so there must be something behind it. But even in his capacity as the New York police chief, George Stacy had no way of knowing the actual inside story. Do you want to know? Lin Wusheng looked at him with a smile. George was silent for a while, then nodded firmly and said, I think. Okay, I'll tell you. Lin Wusheng was very satisfied with George Stacy's reaction and said, It's Roxxon. The Viper team is Roxxon's people. Roxxon energy. George Stacy's heart sank. Although I was mentally prepared, I still felt tremendous pressure after hearing Lin Wusheng's words. Roxxon energy is a real giant. The political forces behind it are not ordinary. No one knows how many relationships Roxxon has been involved in until now. What? Are you scared? Lin Wusheng looked at George. How is that possible? As long as they are criminals, I will arrest them. Although George Stacy felt troubled in his heart, he was still tough on his words. Haha. Director Stacy, feel free to go check it out. Apart from other places, Roxxon Energy will never make any trouble in New York. We, Jerome Intelligence, will be the loyal backing of the New York police. What do you think, Director Stacy? Lin Wusheng stretched out his hand to George Stacy with a bright smile on his face. Of course. The New York Police Department will definitely fight the criminals to the end. George was stunned for 2 seconds, and then firmly held Lin Wusheng's hand. He knew clearly what Lin Wusheng meant. But so what? Jerome Smart is the largest taxpayer in New York. The police serve the taxpayers, isn't that a given? Let's go. George and Lin Wusheng chatted for a while, and then paid attention to Sky's situation, and then returned home. When faced with questions from reporters, they only said that they had some clues about the attackers, but could not comment on the rest. And everyone in Jerome Intelligence quickly returned to Jerome Building. After encountering such a bad thing, Sky had no choice but to cancel her attendance at the charity meeting. Originally she thought she could still participate, but Lin Wusheng asked her to rest. Sky felt warm in her heart, feeling that Lin Wusheng really cared about her feelings. She lay in Lin Wusheng's arms and fell asleep unconsciously. Looking at the sleeping Sky, Lin Wusheng opened his system panel. Anyway, only he can see the system panel. Host. Lin Wusheng. Age. 21. Game level. 2, 9710,000. Unlocked Kamen Rider Illustrated Book. Kamen Rider 01 First Level. Kamen Rider 555 First Level. Ability. Zumagia Manufacturing Technology. Items. Fedian 01 Driver. High Leaping Locust Program Sublimation Key. Bite Shark Program Sublimation Key. Frozen Polar Bear Program Sublimation Key. Blazing Tiger Program Sublimation Key. Attendance. Izzy, Satellite Z, Murakami Kiyaji, 3/5. General Impact Factor. 5,171,237. Special Impact Factor. 9,700. The harvest in recent days is undoubtedly very sufficient, especially the special impact factors. After the appearance of Aoife Enoch and the demise of the Viper gang, a lot of special influence factors have accumulated. Open a Kamen Rider Illustrated Book again. Lin Wusheng quickly made up his mind. I didn't think about opening the second-level illustrated book of Kamen Rider 01 or Kamen Rider 555, but I was planning to open a new illustrated book of Kamen Rider World again. Following his thoughts, the system lottery interface in front of me started to move continuously. One by one, the Kamen Rider illustrations quickly passed in front of Lin Wusheng. Give me one with high combat power, Kamen Rider Holy Blade, Kamen Rider Build, or Kamen Rider Tokyo. Lin Wusheng's eyes were filled with hope. But he saw the Kamen Rider worlds he wanted to be passing by quickly in front of him. In the end, only a strange-looking Kamen Rider appeared in front of him. Next to the opponent, there are playing cards flying one after another. Congratulations on successfully unlocking Kamen Rider Blade, Level 1, Illustrated Book. Sword. Not bad. Lin Wusheng was not disappointed, but his eyes brightened slightly. The monster in Kamen Rider Sword, the Undead, is a monster that cannot be killed and can only be sealed. Its appearance will surely attract a lot of special influence factors. Moreover, the common riders in Kamen Rider Sword are not weak in combat power, and the strength of the Imperial Sword is considered high among the common riders. Overall, Lin Wusheng had quickly figured out how to use the Kamen Rider Sword. He also quickly spent ordinary influence factors to exchange undead cards for each one. It's pretty cheap. In the mall, the prices of undead cards are not high. Most ordinary undead creature cards are not expensive, ranging from 3,000 to 5,000. But the price of an undead creature with sequence number 10 came to 8,000. The guards and queen are both 15,000, and the king and ace are both 30,000. The price of the transformation suits of the 7 common riders is less than 100,000. However, the Emperor's Awakening device requires unlocking the second level of the Kamen Rider Sword's illustrated book to obtain it. I don't know how much it costs. Another point is that except for the undead creatures whose order is guard, queen, king and ace, the rest of the undead creatures cannot be exchanged as retinues. The new layout has begun, so it's time for Ifa Enoch to fully appear in the world's sight. Lin Wusheng touched his chin, a mysterious smile appeared on his lips, as if something was brewing in his chest. Things haven't been quiet lately at New York's Midtown High School. The mysterious disappearance of 4 girls has made students and parents of this high school panic. This disappearance case has also attracted close attention from the police. There is already a police team in the school investigating, hoping to find traces of the 4 girls. George Stacy also appeared on campus. His daughter Gwen Stacy attended Midtown High School. If he didn't investigate the matter himself, how could he let his daughter continue to attend school with confidence? Forensic Henry, what did you find? In the women's restroom of the campus cafeteria, George asked a man in his 30s with a British-style appearance. The other party was Henry Morgan, a very knowledgeable forensic scientist. Although he had only joined the New York Police Department for half a year, he had already helped the New York Police Department solve many cases. So George admired each other very much. There was a fight here. Henry Morgan pointed to the windowsill on one side and said. The tiles here were broken by external force. There are also blood stains and scratches on them. There are also signs of bending in the water pipes here. We can imagine that there is a person with his back to the windowsill, and then he hits it hard. Wait, there's more than one person. The tiles here are also broken, and there are blood stains on them. It might be 3 people, or 4 people, all crashing into each other. Quote. Henry stretched out his hand and demonstrated the impact process. I have extracted the blood from this and will do the test later. You mean someone attacked 4 girls in the bathroom and took them away? George frowned. Not sure. Because there is a high platform outside the toilet window. Who can carry 4 people at once and walk away from a height of 8 meters? Henry was also very confused. This disappearance case is full of weirdness even in his more than 200 years of life experience. There were so many cameras in the school, but no trace of the 4 girls was captured, and no suspicious person was captured. If the girls were dead, it stands to reason that their bodies would have been discovered by now. But so far, there are no useful clues. The only clue is the blood stains and traces just found in the women's toilet. Let's first ask those female students if they saw anything unusual at that time. George Stacy said. Director, someone has come to report the situation. But I saw a young police officer reporting to George. What? George and Henry looked at each other and immediately walked out of the bathroom. Outside the bathroom door, 2 policewomen were talking to 2 girls. This is our director. If you see anything, tell him. When the policewoman saw George arriving, she immediately said to the 2 girls. Hello everyone. Is there anything you want to tell me? Don't worry, there are no bad people here, you can relax. Just say whatever you know. Facing the 2 girls in front of him who were about the same age as his daughter, George acted very patiently, with a gentle expression and a gentle tone. That day, we saw Missy Kallenbach hurriedly walking out of the toilet. I heard from Kelly and the other 4 that they wanted to teach Missy a lesson. A girl said. And some of Kelly's clothes were found in the toilet. Did you find the clothes? Hearing this, Henry Morgan asked doubtfully. All clothes. Including underwear. Yes, all the clothes. All the clothes on them fell to the ground. The girl nodded. If you take it off yourself, you can't even take off your underwear. Henry frowned immediately and continued to ask. Did you find anything in the toilet? No. There are just these clothes. We are still curious as to what happened to them. They even took off their clothes. We thought they were going to take off Missy's clothes, the girl said. Is there anything on the clothes? Blood stains or something like that? No. It's just sand. We were still joking at the time. Did Kelly and the others turn into sand? Sand. Henry had nothing, but George Stacy had a pupil earthquake. He suddenly remembered the two rich men who were attacked at the dinner that day. After being attacked by the creature called Ifa Enoch, their bodies turned into sand. Could it be that these four girls were killed by Ifa Enoch? George took a deep breath, immediately looked at a girl, and asked. What did you call the girl who came out of the toilet? Which class is she in? Her name is Missy Kallenbach. She is the one who dresses the most in Class 5. Class 5. Gwen is also here. I understand, thank you. Knowing that it was too late, George immediately led the police to evacuate the teachers and students on the campus, fearing that his daughter would be in danger, and began to call for support, as well as the authority to use heavy weapons. What's wrong? Director Stacy, I see you are nervous. Henry looked at the nervous George, wondering what happened, and asked immediately. You'll find out later. The murderer may not be human. George Stacy took a deep breath, and cold sweat broke out on his head. Not human. Henry's pupils shrank. In his more than 200 years of life, he has seen non-human beings. That is undoubtedly a very terrifying thing. Henry couldn't help but become curious at this time. I want to see what kind of monster George talks about. Soon the support George sought arrived. I saw heavily armed SWAT teams getting out of police cars quickly. Our target is the third classroom on the left on the second floor, and the target is this girl. George also put on a set of equipment, and then explained the target and location to everyone. The target is to capture as many people as possible alive, and there are other students in the classroom. We can't cause harm to the other students. George was very nervous now. In order to avoid alerting the enemy, he did not contact Gwen. After the order was issued, George led more than 30 police officers and rushed towards the teaching building, leaving hundreds of police officers to set up firepower points around the school. At this time, the classroom was still peaceful. The math teacher is giving a lecture. Good students like Peter Parra and Gwen Stacy are listening. Ned was in a state of wandering. Others like Thompson secretly used their cell phones to chat with a girl. Since the classroom of Class 5 is on the other side, we can't see the crowd evacuation at the school gate, and we don't know that they are the only class in the school that is still in class. Missy Kallenbach didn't know that the danger was approaching, so she kept taking notes and listened to the class carefully. In the classroom, Missy Kallenbach wrote furiously, as if she wanted to copy down every word the teacher said. She knew she was different from other classmates. Her father died when she was a child, and her mother gave birth to a younger sister after marrying her stepfather. The younger sister seems to be the real protagonist of the family and is deeply loved by her mother and stepfather. And I am just a dispensable existence. Since childhood, the snacks and drinks are always the cheapest and the ones used are the worst. She doesn't expect her family to help her go to college, she just hopes to break away from this family as soon as possible. But life failed her time and time again. No matter how hard she tried, it was like she was trapped in a curse. I finally saved a lot of money, but I was robbed because I got off work too late from my part-time job. He was robbed and then killed by a monster. After being killed by a monster, he also turned into a monster and killed 4 classmates. Missy just felt like her life sucked. But recently she has calmed down a bit. She was secretly happy to find that her murder of 4 people did not seem to be exposed. Although the police were investigating, they never found her. The naive Missy thought that everything would pass and good days were not far away. When she gets into a good university and finds a good job, she will be able to completely escape the sea of misery. At this time, police. Everyone, hold your head and squat down. The door of the classroom was suddenly kicked open, and a group of police officers with live ammunition burst into the classroom. What? Suddenly there were screams in the classroom. The math teacher was so frightened that he hid in the corner. Each student immediately squatted down with his head in his hands. And when Missy looked at the dozens of guns pointed at her, she became even more panicked. Missy Kallenbach, please come with us. George Stacy looked at Missy coldly. I hope you don't act rashly, otherwise we will really shoot. Missy was stunned. She didn't know why the accident happened so quickly. Her long-term submissiveness prevented her from resisting the police's orders. While she was still confused, she was handcuffed. Dad, did you make a mistake? What did Missy do? She is not a bad person. Looking at this scene, Gwen stood up and asked her father. Missy immediately cast a grateful look at Gwen. But he reacted quickly. It turns out it was your father who arrested me. Hearing his daughter's question, George just glanced at her and didn't answer anything. Take away. George didn't say anything, just put a hood on Missy to protect her privacy, and escorted her downstairs. But in the process of going downstairs, countless students gathered not far away and looked at it. I want to find out who is the murderer of this campus disappearance case. Who is that? Why is your head covered? Can't you even tell? Our school wears such tacky clothes. Who else can be there besides Missy Kallenbach, a rubbish? It turns out it's Missy, this bitcha. She is indeed not a good person. We did the right thing by bullying her. I heard that her mother didn't even want her. Tell me how good she can be. What bad luck. Such a guy is so disgusting. Everyone said something to each other, and all the words hit Missy's heart. Suddenly she stopped. Missy, what do you want to do? Looking at Missy's stopped steps, George Stacy was extremely nervous, and the safety bolt on the gun suddenly opened. Why are you forcing me? Missy sobbed, tears kept falling from her hood. Her voice was like crying, with a hint of despair. I obviously just want to live a normal life. Careful. George's pupils shrank to a small point and he immediately fell to the ground. Suddenly, countless feathers of light flew out from Missy's body and shot rapidly in all directions. Swish swish. The light feather immediately penetrated an area of 100 meters in radius. Human beings died directly under Missy's attack. The policemen wearing body armor were defenseless, and the light feathers were as powerful as armor-piercing bullets, piercing them directly. Monsters. There are monsters. Missy Kallenbach has turned into a monster. Oh God. I saw something. This monster actually killed so many people. The scene was already like hell, with dozens of bodies lying bloody on the ground. The eyes of everyone looking at Missy were already filled with fear and hatred. Because Missy was so excited, she once again transformed into Enoch's form. No, I didn't do this. No. Looking at the miserable scene everywhere, even Missy herself found it difficult to accept it. She never thought that she would kill dozens of people at once. You are indeed a monster. George Stacy got up from the ground, his eyes already red, and he looked at Missy angrily. The dozens of policemen who had just performed the mission with him were basically all killed or injured, and very few survived. George did not hesitate, and quickly started shooting with the AR-15 rifle in his hand. The bullets continuously hit Missy's body, causing a burst of sparks. Although the bullet did not cause effective damage to Missy, it made her feel pain. She knew she couldn't stay here any longer. She spread her wings and prepared to fly away. Do it. Everyone concentrate their firepower. We must keep her here today. George held the walkie-talkie and gave orders. As soon as Missy flew out more than 10 meters, she was hit by gunfire from all directions. The energy of her wings was shattered, and her body fell helplessly to the ground. A group of police officers immediately surrounded Missy, pointing their weapons at Missy. It's not me. No. Missy's body was shaking and she was crying. The shadow on the ground actually showed her original appearance. She was very helpless now, feeling very guilty for everything she had caused, and not knowing what to do. It was as if fate was going against her and wanted her to suffer these hardships. Don't believe her. She's a monster. These are crocodile tears. This bitcha is not a good person. The police should shoot her. And people were holding their mobile phones and constantly filming the scene in front of them. Rejoice at being able to photograph a living monster. They believe that after posting this video online, it will definitely get a lot of reposts and likes, and maybe it will become a popular blogger on YouTube. What should we do? We have to help Missy. Her nature is definitely not like that, is it? Looking at the helpless Missy sitting on the ground, Gwen was a little anxious. As a teacher's assistant, Gwen has always seen Missy's efforts in her eyes. She also understands the situation in Missy's family, so she sympathizes with Missy's experience. Thanks for watching.